Namaskar. Welcome to Prakash on Basics. Up to now, I've been talking on the Vedas, their subparts, and their major aspects. Before moving on to the complex, abstract ideas in the Upanishads, let us revisit some of the old ideas that we already have. Before we discuss the Brahma from the Upanishads, we need to know our own ideas about gods in general. So I'll go and backtrack a little bit. Uh, so often we talk of gods. How many of us have seen them? How many of us have met them? What picture do we conceive when we think of gods? When did this God issue really start? I'll talk on this with respect to the Indian concepts as of now. Uh, we often think of them in human form, but there are many obvious things that we overlook. We never give it a thought. The Rishis, the learned people then, long time back, did paint a good picture for us. There are some questions that are pertinent everywhere in the world. Uh, Gods created man, or was it vice versa? Uh, was this need based on either side? These are many issues have been looked into by the Vedic sages. Our word in India for it is Dev, but the Westerners, I've heard Deogracia. Isn't that also Dev? Like many other Indo-Aryan words like Matru, Mata, Bhrata, which is brother, there are some common terms, whether it is in India or outside India also. But in Vedic literature, Dev is derived from the word Div, which means bright or enlightened. In limelight, you could say. In limelight, in every respect, in terms of their strength, their knowledge, their activity, their morals, in every possible aspect that we can think of. And then when the Indians talk of gods, they talk of 33 koti, that mathematically works out to be 330 million. Is that real? I'll come to that. But how many of these gods do we really know? 25, 50, 100, 300? Do we know gods from today? Do we know the Vedic gods, the Puranic gods, the North Indian gods, the South Indian gods, the major gods, the minor gods? There are so many issues. The maturity and depth, the logic and understanding of Indian thinkers is reflected in the type of gods that the Vedic sages conceived and thought of. That's valid even up to today. So let's begin. Where? Pre-Vedic, uh, were there gods then? Maybe, but there's no definite information regarding it. There are no records. So let's skip that. What about the early civilizations? The Sindhu or the Indus civilization or the Saraswati civilization? We can see all that only from the seals that have been found. There are no other details available as yet. So let's start with the point where we know for definite some information, and that is the Vedic period. That's the earliest information that we'll have. So I'll start from there. Let's go back. The 330 million, that's a misinterpretation of one of the terms, the 33 koti. Koti actually means category. So there are 33 categories of gods that were conceived, not 330 million as it is misunderstood. The eight Vasus, the 12 Adityas, the 11 Rudras, together would form 8 plus 12 plus 11, that makes it 31. Then there would be, in some texts, Prajapati and Vashat, a word used in many of the Vedas, making up the 33. And at some other places, Prithvi and Dew, the space or sky, would make up the total of 33. But then the Rigveda and the Atharva Ved together have 527 gods. And the Yajurved refers to about 103 of them again. So, which are important, which are not? The importance of a god in Vedic literature is determined on the basis of the number of suktas in which this particular god is being referred to. I'll come to that aspect not today, but later, because there are many other things to talk on. Obviously, there were many Vedic contributors with many different views spread over a very large time span. So the priorities would have also changed during that span. This resulted into a variety of gods and a change in the status of the gods as things went ahead. The Vedas give us all these variety of ideas about gods. Where do they stay? Where do they eat? What do they eat? What do they do? How do they look like? All this information is given in the Vedas directly or indirectly. Primarily, the Rigvedic gods are personifications of nature, nature that controlled and affected human life and was therefore very important at that time. But the primary method of identifying gods in the Vedic period was slightly different. The main subject invoked in any particular sukta was to be treated as a deity or a god. So plant extracts like Som was treated as a major deity. The river Saraswati was a deity. The sun, the moon, the mountains, and even dice that are used were treated as deities because of their suktas. In Vedanga, the Nirukta by Yaskacharya, uh, categories of gods are of two types. One that have a body or a human form, and those that are formless or beyond form, as you could say. The natural forces and energies can be experienced, but we can't really see them or uh, visualize them as such. For prayers, they need to be given a human form with human attributes. So, visualization of these nature forces led to the way in which we look at gods in Vedas. They had many general characteristics. We'll talk of them today. Uh, they were mostly human, sometimes partly animals, sometimes partly human, and sometimes animals, uh, or rather in animal forms. Uh, these were basically different manifestations of the same ultimate power. There's a saying in Hindi, "Jaki rahi bhavana jaisi, Prabhu Murat dekhi unat aisi." So you conceive God in the form that you are capable of thinking of, what you can feel and what you can understand. That's how it was even then. Their attributes uh, were associated with the grasp of the individuals, simple and easy to tolerate, understand, and correlate with nature, and I would say their behavior patterns. Agni, for example, was the fire god, uh, had multiple tongues like flames that you see around. Um, so the organs that were given to these gods were more symbolic than the arms or legs. For example, the arms of the sun god were his rays. Where do they stay? The gods were said to reside or be capable of residing in three different regions. Typically, this is referred to as the Trilok in Hindi or in Sanskrit. Prithvi, Antariksha, and Dew are the three lok, the earth, the sky, and space. The three locations obviously meant that the three gods had three categories or types, the ones that I mentioned right in the beginning. Each region had a dominant god. Prithvi, the earth, had Agni, the fire god, as the most important. Antariksha, the sky, had Vayu and Indra, the gods of winds and the rain god or the king of gods. And Dew, the space, had sun as their chief god. Where did they live? The gods were said to have a land or a nation of their own. It was known as Paravat. That's where all activities related to gods took place. Indra defeating Vrutra takes place there. Saraswati flows and then came down from there also, like the Ganga, to earth. And that's typically the land of gods. These gods have good qualities: strength, wisdom, valor, generosity, and they are all common to all gods. All gods are benevolent, capable of giving wealth, progeny, health, granting others wishes too. Only Rudra of the Rigveda is said to be a scary god, but I'll come to that a little later. Uh, their favorite drink is somras, and their favorite food is milk, ghee, barley, uh, bulls, and ram. So, veg and non veg was not an issue even then, even for gods. Uh, using mantras, they are to be invoked into a yajna. There they descend from the top, from their land, but are not visible. So the offerings that are to be given to them are given to them through the fire god who is visible. They accept the offerings, get satisfied, and bless us accordingly. Havya Vahan is the word used for fire. Havya is the offerings that we make, and he is the carrier or the mouth of the gods who accepts it on their behalf. The gods having multiple limbs, four hands, three eyes, are all later issues. There's only one exception in the Rigveda, and that is a god named as Mahodev. Sometimes he's compared to Agni, the fire god. I'll just tell you what he looks like. The one who has four horns, three legs, two heads, seven arms, who is bound on three sides and roars like a bull. This Mahodev has appeared among us mortals, is the way he is being described in the Rigveda. Many of these attributes seem to be very similar to visualization of fire, the crackling sounds that we hear, the flames, the different arms, the different branches on the head, and so forth. So, whether it is uh, Agni or Mahadev is an interpretation issue. We'll come to that sometime later. Did they have origins? Yes, they had parents. And their parents are listed differently in different places in the Vedas. Their father is Twashta and the mother is Aditi. They are comparatively of less importance as compared to the other gods. It's like what happens even now. We go and visit our friends, and if their parents are there with them, we just go and say hello and hi and pay our regards and respects to them, and that's about it because we have other issues to discuss with our friends. So generally, gods are of this nature too. And what about the common gods that are around, not the major ones? The general gods are believed to be the children of Prithvi, the earth, and Dhruva, the pole star. The Aitareya Aranyak states uh, that they are the parents and have given birth to Agni, Surya, Marut, the winds, Brihaspati, the knowledge god, and Ushas, the dawn. This has been mentioned in the Vivaha Sukta or the marriage ceremony Sukta of Prithvi and Dev, the space. It's very interesting. We'll come to that maybe sometime later. Um, Gods that separate the couple, the sky and the earth at the first light of dawn are believed to be the major gods. The Surya, sun, Indra, Varun, and Vishnu are treated as major gods, and they are all immortal. The other gods are said to have gained their immortality by the grace of the sun god Savita and fire, the Agni, and also by consuming what is known as the Somaras, the Amrut or the uh, elixir of permanent life, is a later concept that has emerged from the Samudra Manthan concept, which is more of a Puranic issue. The gods have different weapons. Indra has Vajra, which is more like a thunderbolt or a lightning. Rudra uses a bow. The Marudgand, the winds, the storm winds have javelins, more like goads to drive the clouds around like sheep. Uh, the Chakra, Gada, Trishul are all Puranic additions much later. They also have different vehicles, and most of them are chariots. Pushan has a three-wheeled chariot and is pulled by goats. The Marut chariot is pulled by the Chitral type of deer, which are very fast, like the winds themselves. The Ashwini Kumars, the medicinal gods, have birds pulling their chariot. And Indra has horses pulling his chariots, but these are with peacock tails, the tails that have multiple colors. Is that like rainbows that we talk of in the sky? I don't know. You have to decide. Ushas, the dawn, has her chariot pulled by Go, the cows. But the word go also has a different meaning. It means sun rays, and probably that is more logical. Uh, and what do they ride on? The Vahans, like the Garuda, the Nandi, the rat used by Ganesh, that is the eagle, the bull, the buffalo by used by Yama, etc. These are all later additions. They are not referred to in the Rigvedic period. There's one more major concept. It has been referred to by the Western countries as Thinotheism. But there's another good word for it, which is supremism. The deity in a particular sukta or a stotra is said to be the supreme god. He's supposed to show all the attributes of all other gods. He's supposed to represent all other gods also. Many of us who know the Atharva Shirsha would recollect the phrases like Tameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvam Jnanamayo Vijnanamayosi Tam Rudram Tam Agnim Tam Vayus Tam Indras Tam Suryas Tam Chandramas and all that. What does it boil down to? That you are a god representing all of them. And that means the god referred to in a particular sukta is said to be the most supreme, representing all of them. These gods usually live pretty peacefully in the Paravat that I talked of, except Indra. I'll talk of that when I come to Indra himself. Um, they had wives, but they are not given all that importance in the Vedic period. Are gods with color? The Smruti Granthas give the colors of gods. Indra is said to be yellow. Yama, death, is dark black. Varun, like water, is like quartz. Kuber, the god of wealth, and Agni are both golden in nature. Vayu, the winds, are more smoky in color, like the smoke that drifts away. These gods and men are symbiotic in their lives. Gods, though they eat food, thrive on the offerings made in the yajnas, and the humans progress by the blessings given by the gods during the yajnas. These are some of the facts that we have from the Vedic period, mostly from Yajurveda and Rigveda, the earlier ones. The Atharvaveda has different concepts. But there are more interesting details about these gods, the individual gods, and their characteristics. Let's talk of them next time. If you've liked the information that I have passed on, if you have appreciated whatever I have said, please like and subscribe to this channel. Pass on the information to your friends and let them gain this insight also. Till we meet next time for the gods again. Namaskar.